The atmosphere has grown heavy around you. You've felt it, an unseen chill that moves through the halls of your home, a tension that settles when the lights go out, a whisper that lingers in silence. Something has shifted. The air no longer feels the same. What was once peaceful has been invaded by a quiet, creeping darkness. It doesn't appear suddenly. It seeps in through neglect, through fear, through moments when faith is pushed aside. And now it is moving, inside the very walls that were meant to protect you. You've noticed the signs, haven't you? The unease that has no reason, the exhaustion that clings even after rest, the sudden arguments that rise from nothing. These are not coincidences, they are warnings. You have been given moments, small divine signals, urging you to turn back toward the light, but each time you brushed them off, a flickering candle, a sudden dream. A thought that whispered, "Pray now," yet you hesitated. The distractions of this world drowned out the still, clear voice of heaven trying to reach you. There are forces that dwell in the shadows, patient and persistent. They wait for your guard to drop. They feed on confusion, isolation, resentment, and fear. And when you ignore the quiet calls of the divine, those shadows gain permission to linger longer, to move closer, to take hold. You may not see it with your eyes, but it is there, shifting, listening, studying the cracks in your spirit. The darkness that now moves through your home is not just after the place where you live. It is after the peace that once lived inside your heart. But you have not been abandoned. Even now, heaven is not silent. The call has gone out again. This is not a message of despair, it is a call to awaken. The spiritual veil is thin tonight. You are being urged to rise, to speak light into the darkness before it takes more than you can bear to lose. There are moments in time when decisions carry eternal weight, and this is one of them. You cannot wait for another sign. You are already standing in one. The battle around you is not of flesh and blood. It is of spirit and intention. The forces pressing against your peace cannot be fought with anger or noise, but with faith, authority, and purity. You must reclaim your home. Every wall, every room, every space that was built to shelter love and life. Speak light over it. Declare that darkness has no right to linger there. Speak aloud what the heavens are commanding, that every presence not of light must depart, that no unholy whisper may take root in your thoughts, that no spirit of despair may cling to your soul. Your prayer does not need to be eloquent, only sincere. Speak from your heart. Call upon divine protection to fill every corner. Let no space remain empty where darkness might hide. Do not delay. For each moment you hesitate, the shadow grows bolder. You have been chosen to stand in authority, to push back what has dared to enter. Do not wait for another confirmation. The confirmation is already within you. The tightening in your chest, the stirring in your spirit, the voice that says something is not right. That voice is truth calling out, pleading for your response. Look around you now. This is not merely a home. It is a sacred ground entrusted to your care. What enters it, what grows within it, is your responsibility to guard. Do not be deceived into thinking the battle will pass on its own. Darkness retreats only when light is commanded to rise. Your voice carries that power. Your faith unlocks it. Your decision activates it. You have only moments left before this passes into something deeper, something harder to undo. The darkness hopes you will wait, that you will shrug this off as mere fear or imagination. That hesitation is its greatest weapon. But if you act now, if you rise now, if you choose to believe now, the tide will break. Heaven is waiting for your answer, not tomorrow, not later. Now, take your stand, speak the light, cleanse your home. Guard your heart. The moment you do, you will feel the shift. The air will change, the silence will break, and the shadows will flee. The presence that has been watching will know it has been seen. The power that surrounds you will drive it out. There is a shadow that has quietly crept into the corners of your dwelling, unseen but deeply felt. It began as a whisper, a faint disturbance that seemed harmless, a shift in the air that could be easily dismissed as imagination or mood. Yet beneath the surface something has taken root, an energy that feeds on the silent spaces where faith has grown faint, where gratitude has turned to worry, and where peace has been replaced by restlessness. It is not merely a presence that exists in the dark. It is a living force that responds to the spiritual atmosphere you allow to surround you. It watches, it waits, it feeds, and slowly it begins to weave itself into the rhythm of your daily life until it no longer feels foreign. It becomes the heaviness you feel when you wake, the unspoken tension in the air, the argument that arises from nothing, the weariness that prayer alone seems unable to shake. This is not coincidence. This is not random. Something dark has found its way into the home meant to shelter you. The place where you live was never just a physical structure. It was intended to be sacred ground, a space of peace and divine presence. The walls were meant to echo with light, laughter, and the hum of faith alive within you. But when faith weakens, when gratitude becomes scarce, when prayer becomes rare, the light that guards those walls begins to dim. And darkness waits for such moments. It does not come crashing through doors. It slips through the cracks left open by neglect, by fear, by bitterness left unhealed. It thrives in what is unspoken, in what is unresolved. Every sigh of hopelessness, every word of resentment, every moment of disbelief builds a bridge for it to enter quietly. And when it enters, it does not seek to destroy all at once. It seeks to dwell. It wants to make a home where you live. It wants to turn what was sacred into something dull, weary, divided, and uncertain. You may sense it late at night, when the air grows unnaturally still, when shadows seem deeper than usual, when thoughts you never used to have now visit you often. You may notice it in the way your heart feels heavy without reason, in the way peace seems to slip away even in moments that should be calm. The things that once brought joy now seem distant, and small frustrations suddenly feel like storms. It is subtle but constant, a pressure that never quite leaves. It feeds on distraction, keeping you from seeing what's truly happening. It disguises itself as exhaustion, as stress, as coincidence, but beneath it all there is movement, something deliberate, something dark, something that is not meant to be there. It does not matter how grand or humble your home is. Darkness does not seek beauty or wealth. It seeks entry, it seeks permission, and permission is granted not by words, but by the state of your spirit. A heart left unguarded is like an open gate. When peace is neglected, chaos takes its place. When gratitude fades, complaint becomes its echo. When prayer is forgotten, silence becomes its throne. These small exchanges weaken the light that once filled your space, making room for what should never dwell there. And though the presence begins small, it grows with time, gathering strength from the energy you release into your surroundings. The fears you speak, the bitterness you revisit, the doubts you feed, these are the materials it builds with. These are the roots that keep it alive. You may think it's something you can ignore, that it will pass with time, but darkness does not leave on its own. It deepens, it tests how far it can go. It studies your reactions, learns your rhythms, and waits for moments when your defenses are down. It will cloak itself in familiarity until you no longer notice it, until you accept its weight as normal. That is how it thrives, not by force but by your quiet acceptance of its presence. And every day it remains unchallenged, it claims more ground, your peace, your joy, your strength, your connection to divine light, but this presence cannot coexist with light. It cannot survive where truth and faith are alive. The very reason it moves so subtly is because it fears being exposed. It knows that if you truly awaken to its existence, if you choose to confront it, it must retreat. That is why it clouds your mind with distraction and doubt, making you question your own perception. It would rather you stay busy, preoccupied, disconnected from prayer, detached from reflection. The less aware you are, the stronger it becomes. But the moment awareness rises, its hold begins to weaken. The first battle is not with the presence itself. It is with the blindness it tries to keep you in. This is not about superstition. This is about energy, about the unseen war between light and shadow that has existed since the beginning. Every home, every soul becomes a ground of choice, either to host peace or to harbor unrest, and right now that choice is being demanded of you. The air you breathe, the emotions that fill your space, the words you speak, All of them shape the spiritual atmosphere around you. If darkness has entered, it is because somewhere, unknowingly, it was allowed to, but what enters can be driven out. What has taken root can be uprooted, yet it requires awareness, urgency, and the will. To act, you must understand that this presence seeks not only to dwell, but to multiply. Once it gains ground in one heart, it moves to another. Once it finds a foothold in one room, it expands to more. Its goal is not merely to dwell in walls, but to shape minds, to influence speech, to break unity. It wants to turn peace into conflict, love into resentment, prayer into silence. It works through the small things, misunderstandings, careless words, forgotten gratitude, until your home no longer feels like your own. And when you finally realize something is wrong, it may already feel too strong to resist. That is why awareness is the first command given to you. To recognize what has entered before it spreads further, this darkness is patient, but it is also desperate. It knows its time is short whenever divine truth begins to stir. It will do everything to distract you from noticing what's really happening, filling your days with noise, your nights with fatigue, your thoughts with confusion. It wants you to question your intuition, to suppress the sense that something isn't right, but that very sense, that inner stirring, is the warning. It is the sign that what was hidden is being revealed. You are being shown what your physical eyes cannot see. You are being alerted not to fear, but to awaken the presence that moves inside your home is not greater than the power of light that protects it, but that power must be activated through your awareness. You cannot fight what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot claim peace while entertaining what steals it. The call being made to you is not one of fear but of readiness. It is the call to recognize that the place you live in has spiritual weight, that what enters it affects the spirit of everyone within. Something dark is moving there, not because you are cursed or forgotten, but because something holy within you is being challenged. The greater the potential for light, the stronger the opposition that seeks to dim it. That is why the darkness has moved. It senses the strength you carry, the purpose you have, the calling that surrounds your life. It is drawn to extinguish what threatens it most, your awakening. The signs have been appearing around you for some time, quiet but constant, gentle but insistent. They come in ways you might not expect, in the flicker of a light when there's no wind, in the sudden thought that presses on your spirit to stop, to pray, to look closer, to listen. These are not coincidences. They are divine attempts to reach you, to awaken you to something unfolding beyond the surface of your days. You've been nudged, warned, called in whispers that come through dreams, through conversations, through moments that feel strangely timed. But the noise of the world, the distractions that pull at every hour, have kept you from hearing them clearly. Heaven has not been silent. It has been speaking all along, but you have been too busy, too burdened, too doubtful to realize that the voice calling to you has been real. When divine signals come, they rarely shout. They come softly, because the presence that sends them does not force itself upon your will. You may have felt it as an uneasiness in your chest when you entered certain rooms, as if the air changed when you stepped in. You may have seen it in how peace feels thin, how joy feels brief, how the warmth of your home has turned uncertain. These are not just feelings, they are reflections of what is moving in the unseen. The spiritual realm always reaches out before things go too far, always gives warnings before the consequences become unshakable, and you have been given more than one. The subtle restlessness, the repeated sense that something is wrong, the sudden urge to turn your attention back toward the divine, all of these were signs, but you explained them away, chalked them up to coincidence or mood. The call was not missed because it was absent. It was missed because it came quietly, and the world around you was too loud. You have scrolled when you should have listened. You have worried when you should have prayed. You have spoken when silence was required, and stayed silent when truth was asking to be declared. These are not small things. They are the very spaces where divine communication, is either received or lost. The reason the signs felt subtle is because they were meant to reach the part of you that still knows how to sense, not just to see, yet the modern heart has grown numb to sacred stillness. Every moment filled with distraction becomes a veil that dulls the ability to hear the voice that once spoke clearly. Heaven's warnings have not stopped. They have only been buried under noise. There have been moments when you woke in the night with your heart racing and no reason for fear. Moments when a sudden coldness swept through your body as though something unseen had brushed past you. Times when a certain corner of your home felt heavier than others, as if something was sitting in the air that you could not name. These sensations are not random. They are calls to awareness. The divine tries to awaken your spirit through your senses when your mind refuses to listen. Each flicker, each unease, each stirring of your intuition is an echo of the same truth. You are being reached. Something is trying to get your attention. You are being warned not to frighten you, but to prepare you, but the signs do not always appear in shadows or silence. Sometimes they come through people, through words spoken at just the right moment, through advice you didn't take seriously, through a friend's sudden concern, through a child's innocent comment that carries more meaning than it should. The divine often hides its warnings in simplicity because the proud overlook what only the humble notice. You may have brushed off these moments, thinking them ordinary, but they were extraordinary in disguise. The patterns were there, forming a thread of communication from heaven to you, trying to pull your attention back before the darkness moved in further. Yet each time you hesitated, too occupied to see the pattern forming. The more you missed, the dimmer the signs became, not because they stopped, but because you stopped noticing there is a rhythm to divine communication. It begins softly, like a whisper at the edge of consciousness. If you listen, it grows clearer, more powerful. If you ignore it, it recedes, not out of abandonment, but out of respect for your freedom. The silence that follows is not divine withdrawal, but the space left when you choose not to answer. You have lived in that silence, mistaking it for peace, when in truth it was the calm before something unseen began to move. The signs have not ceased, they have simply been drowned out by everything else demanding your attention. Yet every missed sign carries consequence. Each time you delay in responding, the doorway for shadow widens a little more. The divine realm operates in mercy. It sends multiple calls before allowing darkness to settle. You have been shown warnings in dreams that seemed strange, in memories that replayed without cause, in sensations that made you pause without reason. You were meant to notice, to take these as prompts to act, to cleanse, to pray, to realign. But because they did not arrive in thunder or flame, they seemed too small to matter. Yet in spiritual matters, the smallest ignored sign becomes the largest opening. The darkness that now moves through your home did not enter suddenly. It was allowed entry through these moments of dismissal. Heaven tried to reach you, but the message went unanswered. You must understand that divine signs are not just messages. They are moments of protection. Each one carries a chance to change course before consequence takes hold. When you miss them, you delay the very deliverance that was meant for you. The repeated fatigue that settled over you, the strange dreams you kept forgetting but couldn't shake, the recurring numbers or patterns that caught your eye, these were not random. They were coded reminders that you were being watched over, warned, guided. The darkness only gained ground when you began to doubt that such guidance was real. Doubt is the gatekeeper that silence uses to stay hidden. It convinces you that nothing sacred is happening, that you are imagining it, that everything has a logical reason. But logic cannot explain the stirring of the soul. When heaven speaks, the missed signs were never a punishment. They were an invitation that went unanswered. The divine does not seek to frighten but to protect. It saw what was coming before you did, saw the movement of the dark before it reached your doorstep. The unease you felt was the echo of that foresight trying to warn you. You were meant to act then, to clear your space, to pray over your home, to set boundaries against what now moves freely. But the more the signs were missed, the closer the darkness drew. It does not need full permission, just silence. Every missed signal, every delayed prayer, every ignored stirring gave it more space to move. and now it moves boldly, because it believes you do not see, but the truth is that you do see, even if you've tried to deny it. The signs have not stopped, they have only changed form. The divine is still reaching for you, trying once more to pull you into awareness. Every strange noise, every flicker of unease, every sudden sense of urgency is a new attempt to awaken you before it is too late. You have not been abandoned. You have been pursued by mercy, surrounded by warnings meant to save you from what you cannot yet fully perceive. The question is not whether heaven has spoken, but whether you will finally listen. The unease that has been lingering within your home is not without cause. The tension that rises from nowhere, the sudden heaviness that settles in the air, the conflicts that appear without reason, these are not random occurrences. They are manifestations of a disturbance that began long before it became visible. Spiritual unrest always begins subtly, weaving itself through emotions, thoughts, and atmosphere until it becomes something tangible, something that can be felt even if it cannot be seen. When peace begins to decay, when patience fades and small irritations grow louder, it is because something unseen has found its way in. Darkness rarely announces itself with drama. It moves quietly, cloaked in ordinary moments, until it becomes part of the daily rhythm of your home. And before long, the arguments that once seemed out of character, the fatigue that no amount of rest can cure, the invisible weight pressing on the heart, all of it becomes accepted as normal, even though nothing about it is the spiritual atmosphere of a home reflects the condition of the heart within it. When unity weakens, when communication breaks down, when love grows cold, it is often because the space has been spiritually infiltrated. The disturbances you feel are not only emotional or physical, they are energetic, reflections of a deeper presence that feeds on chaos. Every word of anger, every thought of resentment, every unresolved wound becomes a form of nourishment for what thrives in shadow. This is why the air grows heavy. This is why exhaustion lingers. The unseen world is never still. It listens, it reacts, it responds. The walls of your home have memory. They hold the energy of what is spoken, what is done, what is left unresolved. And when that energy turns dark, it invites darker forces to stay. You may notice it in how communication breaks down easily now. Simple words turn into arguments. Laughter fades quicker than it used to. Silence grows awkward instead of peaceful. These are not just mood swings. They are symptoms of something feeding off your emotional energy. Darkness divides because division weakens light. It sows misunderstanding, doubt, and irritation, until those who once felt close now feel distant. The invisible becomes visible through the change in how people treat one another. What was once a sanctuary begins to feel like a battlefield. The temperature in the room feels colder, the energy denser, and yet you cannot explain why. That confusion itself is part of the plan to keep you questioning yourself until you stop trusting your discernment altogether. The presence moving in your home is patient. It does not strike with violence but with subtlety. It knows that small emotional wounds, if left untreated, will become doors. It uses fatigue to keep you from prayer, distraction to keep you from awareness, and fear to keep you from peace. It wants you to normalize its presence, to adapt to its weight instead of challenging it. When you tell yourself that it's just stress, that it's only coincidence, you are giving it exactly what it wants, permission to stay, because darkness cannot create, it can only inhabit. It waits for the light within you to dim, then builds its dwelling in the spaces that light once occupied. Every unspoken grievance, every moment of unconfessed bitterness becomes a shadow where it hides. This is how spiritual disturbance takes root. It disguises itself as the ordinary and grows in neglect. You may have noticed how your sleep has changed. Dreams that once brought comfort now leave you uneasy. Rest that once refreshed now feels shallow, restless. Sometimes you wake feeling watched. Other times you wake without remembering the dream, but with a lingering sense of something unfinished. These moments are not your imagination. They are reflections of the battle that wages unseen. Your spirit knows what your eyes cannot perceive. When darkness enters a space, It first targets rest, because rest restores strength. If it can keep you weary, it can keep you vulnerable. The exhaustion you feel is not only physical, it is spiritual depletion, the slow draining of energy that occurs when you live in the presence of something that feeds off what you release. Pay attention also to the patterns. How often do you find yourself short, tempered for no reason, irritated by small things, burdened by emotions that don't feel entirely your own? How often do you sense a heaviness when you try to pray or focus on what is good? This resistance is not coming from within. It is being projected upon you. The atmosphere of your home has become thick with unspoken tension because something is stirring that resists the light of truth. It wants to keep you distracted, to keep you emotionally reactive rather than spiritually discerning. Every time you lose control of your peace, it grows stronger. Every time you speak words of frustration instead of faith, it gathers power. The conflict within the home is not just between people. It is between light and darkness competing for space. Darkness attaches itself to energy that mirrors its nature. It thrives where there is fear, anger, or despair. These emotions act as open windows through which it enters. That is why it seeks to stir them constantly. It is not enough for you to ignore the unease. Ignoring it does not make it disappear. It only allows it to grow quietly until it feels too large to confront. The longer it remains unchallenged, the more it becomes part of the structure itself, embedding its vibration into every corner, every wall, every piece of the home that once carried light. You might notice electronics malfunctioning, lights flickering, objects falling without cause. These are not random. They are physical echoes of spiritual imbalance. The more the energy builds, the more it spills into the material realm, trying to draw attention to itself while simultaneously cloaking its true nature. But understand this: the disturbance is not proof of defeat, it is proof of calling. The reason this darkness has entered is because there is something powerful within your home, something sacred that it wants to suppress. Homes where there is potential for great light always attract shadows, for the enemy fears what could awaken there. The unease you feel is not only a warning but a revelation that your home is not ordinary. There is a purpose, a mission, a light meant to emanate from within those walls, and the darkness seeks to smother it before it spreads. This is why the tension has increased, why peace feels harder to maintain, why simple things have begun to feel complex. The battle is not random, it is targeted. You have been chosen to discern it, and to act before it deepens. You may remember times when your home felt lighter, when laughter came easily, when the air itself seemed filled with warmth. That atmosphere was not accidental. It was the reflection of harmony between the seen and unseen. But light requires maintenance. Spiritual protection is not a one-time act. It is a continual guarding of space through faith, gratitude, and presence. The darkness that now stirs is the result of what has been left unattended. But awareness is the first step toward cleansing. The fact that you feel the disturbance means you are sensitive enough to respond. Those who are numb cannot sense these things. Those who are awake can. This sensitivity is not a burden. It is a gift. Your home is not lost. It has simply been dimmed. Every argument that arose from nowhere, every moment of despair that appeared without cause, every sudden silence that felt unnatural, they are all symptoms of a single truth. The spiritual balance of your space has shifted. Something has moved in not because it was stronger, but because it was invited through neglect. The tension is not the enemy, it is the alarm. It is the sign that something still resists, that the light within you is still fighting back, that not all hope has been swallowed. The unease is the evidence that your spirit is still aware of what is not meant to be there. You are not imagining the change, you are feeling the vibration of something that should not be allowed to stay. Darkness is not always loud when it enters. It slips in quietly, unnoticed at first, through moments of doubt, through the neglect of prayer, through the soft erosion of trust in divine order. It waits for the light inside you to grow dim, not extinguished, only dim, because even a flicker of faith is a threat to it. The more the soul becomes distracted, the easier it is for darkness to take root. It feeds not on the grand sins people often fear, but on the subtle acts of forgetting, the forgetting to give thanks, the forgetting to forgive, the forgetting to believe that unseen goodness still guards your home. Every forgotten moment of connection to the divine becomes an open window, and what waits outside does not hesitate to enter when it sees a door left ajar. This is how it moves, how it grows, how it builds its dwelling in the quiet corners of your life until one day you realize that the peace you once carried has been slowly replaced by unrest when faith weakens. The protection it provides begins to thin. Faith is not only belief, it is a covering, a shield that radiates through every space you occupy. It fills the air with a frequency that repels what cannot dwell in light. When that faith is neglected, even slightly, the covering begins to waver, and the spaces once bright begin to fade. The darkness does not rush in, it waits patiently. It knows that people rarely lose faith in one moment. They lose it in stages, one disappointment at a time, one unanswered prayer at a time, one moment of silence mistaken for abandonment. It feeds on that doubt, whispering questions in the quiet. Asterisk, why keep believing? Why keep trusting? Why keep praying when nothing changes? Asterisk, each question is a thread that pulls at the edges of faith's fabric until it tears just enough for something unwanted to pass through. There are signs that this fading has already begun. The prayers that once felt alive now feel routine. The peace that once came easily now feels distant. The hope that once fueled you now feels faint. The small moments of stillness that used to bring you comfort have turned heavy. It is not that the divine has grown silent, it is that the noise of doubt has grown louder. This is how darkness strengthens, by amplifying uncertainty until it drowns out the whispers of truth. And the more you allow those whispers of doubt to linger, the more permission you give to the shadow to settle deeper within your space. Doubt is its language, fear is its breath, and despair is its anchor. These are not just emotions. They are the seeds that allow it to thrive. Darkness does not need to destroy to win. It only needs to distract. It keeps your mind occupied with the temporary, so you will forget the eternal. It fills your thoughts with worry about the future, with regret about the past, until you lose sight of the present moment where divine power resides. It convinces you that the problems in your home are merely physical or emotional, when in truth they are spiritual first. It will make you focus on symptoms so that you never seek the source. The constant exhaustion, the sense of being watched, the heaviness that clings to certain rooms, all of these are strategies to drain your focus from what truly matters. And as long as your eyes remain fixed on the chaos, you will not see the quiet unraveling of faith that allows that chaos to persist, but the divine presence has not abandoned you. Even in your distraction, it continues to call out through small reminders, a verse that comes to mind, a song that moves your heart, a sudden thought to pray. Yet each time you ignore it, the distance grows. The darkness knows how to manipulate that distance, how to make you believe that the divine has turned away, when in truth it is you who have drifted. It feeds on that illusion. It needs you to think you are alone, because isolation makes faith harder to sustain. Once you stop believing that help is near, you stop calling for it. Once you stop calling for it, silence deepens, and that silence becomes its shelter. It is important to understand that darkness has no power of its own. It only borrows power from what you surrender. It uses your fear against you, your doubt as a tool, your neglect as a doorway. It has no authority except what you give it, yet it is cunning, making you feel that you are powerless against it. It whispers that your prayers don't matter, that your faith is too small, that your past disqualifies you from light. It thrives on this deception because it knows that once you believe those lies, you stop resisting. The most dangerous weapon it wields is not terror but persuasion. It convinces you to accept its presence as natural, to adjust to the dimness as if it were light. And the longer you live in that false peace, the harder it becomes to remember what true peace feels like. You might look around and see the subtle changes that have occurred over time. The atmosphere growing heavier, laughter fading faster, arguments becoming sharper. These are not random events. They are the fruit of faith left unattended. The energy of a home mirrors the energy of its keeper. When the keeper forgets to nurture the light, darkness fills the void. It doesn't need your permission, it only needs your absence. When the heart no longer guards its boundaries with gratitude and reverence, the doors of the spirit swing open. The shadow steps in quietly, wrapping itself in the normalcy of daily life until it no longer feels like an intruder. It pretends to belong, disguising itself as tiredness, sadness, distraction, until it becomes part of the rhythm of your day's faith, is not something that simply exists. It must be tended like a flame. Left alone, it flickers and weakens. The smallest breeze of worry can dim it. The slightest neglect can starve it. That is what the darkness counts on. It waits for the day when the flame burns low enough for it to step closer. And once it does, it begins to whisper, not in words you hear aloud, but in emotions you suddenly feel. It makes the familiar feel foreign, the safe feel unsafe, the sacred feel ordinary. It replaces awe with apathy, reverence with routine, conviction with confusion. And you begin to drift, slowly, imperceptibly, until the light that once filled you seems like a memory instead of a reality. You might tell yourself that things are fine, that this heaviness is just part of life, but deep down you know something has changed. The spiritual warmth that once surrounded you feels replaced by something colder, denser. It's in the silence after you speak, in the way certain corners of your home seem to hold your gaze longer than they should, in the way shadows seem thicker than they used to be. It's in the sense that someone or something is waiting for you to stop fighting back. That is how darkness grows stronger, by waiting for your surrender. The longer faith is ignored, the easier it becomes for that shadow to believe it belongs. The longer you dismiss the pull to return to prayer, the deeper the shadow embeds itself. The longer you allow doubt to whisper unchecked, the louder its voice becomes. But even now, the light within you is not extinguished. It flickers beneath the weight of distraction, waiting for your attention, waiting for your recognition. The divine has not stopped reaching. It is waiting for you to remember. The heaviness in your home is not proof of abandonment, but a signal of imbalance. The shadow that moves is not proof of power, but proof of opportunity. It moves because faith has been left unguarded. It grows because divine communication has been muted. It thrives because the light that once blazed brightly has been dimmed by forgetfulness. The moment faith is remembered, darkness begins to lose its grip. The moment gratitude is spoken, the shadow trembles. The moment you choose to believe again, even quietly, the balance begins to shift back toward the light. You are being called to awaken now, not later, not when it becomes comfortable, but now, in this very moment where the unseen world is shifting and the veil between light and darkness is thin. There are moments in time when heaven leans close, urging the soul to act, and this is one of them. The stirring within you is not anxiety, it is an alarm from your spirit, a signal that something is approaching that cannot be faced with indifference. The call to awaken is not an invitation to fear, but to awareness. You are being summoned to remember who you are, to recognize the authority that has always rested within you, but has been forgotten under the weight of distraction. The unseen has moved closer, not because it is stronger, but because your light has drawn attention. Darkness does not gather where there is nothing to threaten. It gathers where light is beginning to rise. This awakening begins within, in the quiet corners of your own heart where the battles first take shape. You cannot fight what you do not first acknowledge, and the first step in reclaiming your home, your peace, your spiritual ground is to admit that something unseen has entered. Denial is the shadow's greatest ally. It hides behind the thought that everything is fine, behind the hope that time will heal what only faith can cleanse. You must open your eyes fully now. Look at what has changed in your home, the heaviness in the air, the words spoken in frustration that echo longer than they should, the strange silence that feels crowded instead of empty. These are the signs that the spiritual balance has shifted. that you have been chosen to act before the darkness deepens further. The divine does not send this awareness to everyone. It sends it to those who have the strength to see what others cannot. To awaken means to step into spiritual clarity. It is to look past the surface of things and perceive the energy behind them. Every sound, every silence, every shadow carries a message if you are willing to listen. The unease that lingers is not only an emotion, it is communication. The sudden heaviness in your chest, the chill that runs through the room, the moment when your heart feels pressed without cause, these are spiritual sensations, alerts from the realm beyond sight. They are not meant to frighten you, but to remind you that you are being called to rise. Awareness is not passive, it demands a response. Once you see what is happening, you cannot go back to pretending you don't. The act of awakening itself shifts the balance. It disrupts the comfort of the shadows. It unsettles the forces that prefer your blindness. The moment you awaken, resistance begins. You will feel the pull to delay, the whisper that says you are imagining things, the temptation to distract yourself and return to numbness. That resistance is not coincidence. It is the reaction of the darkness that knows its time is short once you begin to see. Every distraction that suddenly appears, every interruption that keeps you from prayer or reflection, is part of that resistance. The closer you come to awareness, the more chaos will try to rise around you. It is the last defense of what fears exposure. The more you awaken, the more clarity burns through the fog, revealing what was hidden all along. You will start to see connections between events, to remember moments that didn't make sense before, to realize how long you have been gently warned. That realization may bring heaviness, but it will also bring strength. Because what is revealed can no longer control you through deception, there is a holy authority rising in you that the darkness cannot withstand. You may not feel powerful, but you carry within you the imprint of divine light that darkness has always feared. It knows this even if you have forgotten it. That is why it attacks your confidence, your sense of worth, your clarity. It wants you to forget who you are. To awaken means to reclaim that memory, to understand that you are not a helpless observer, but a guardian of the space you live in. You have the right to command light to fill your home, to declare peace over your atmosphere, to speak with authority that does not come from pride, but from alignment with truth. When you speak from awareness, your words carry weight. They do not echo into emptiness. They cut through the unseen like fire through mist. You are being called to take spiritual authority, not in anger, not in fear, but in conviction. There is a difference between reacting and commanding. Reaction comes from panic, but command comes from understanding. The moment you realize that the darkness in your home is not stronger than the light within you, the battle shifts. It only appeared powerful because you were unaware of your own strength. You do not need to shout or rage. Even a whisper of faith can shake the foundations of what has tried to stay hidden. Speak light into the air of your home. Speak peace where there has been turmoil. Speak cleansing over every corner where tension lingers. The unseen listens when you speak with clarity. It knows the sound of authority that comes from one who has awakened. It will resist at first. It may stir. It may test your resolve. But once it realizes that your awakening is real, it will begin to retreat. To awaken means to reclaim territory that was lost slowly over time. It means to go room by room, not only in your home but in your heart, and to see what has been left unguarded. Every place where fear has replaced trust, every memory that still carries pain, every habit that feeds distraction. These are the gates through which the shadow entered. Close them now. Fill those spaces with light through intention, through gratitude, through words of truth. Gratitude is a weapon in the unseen. It burns like fire against despair. The more you give thanks for the light that still remains, the more that light multiplies. The act of awakening is not just about seeing the darkness. It is about amplifying the light until there is no room for the shadow to remain. The divine has chosen this moment because time is short, not in the sense of hours or days, but in the sense of opportunity. There is a window that has been opened for you to act while the spiritual air is still moving, while the unseen world is listening closely. When you are being called to awaken, hesitation becomes dangerous. The longer you wait, the more the energy settles, and the harder it becomes to shift. But right now, you still have the authority to change what is happening. The awakening is not about fear. It is about remembrance. You are remembering that you were never alone, that the presence of heaven has surrounded you even when you could not feel it. The stirring inside you is that presence calling you back into alignment with it, reminding you that you were created not to hide from the dark, but to carry light into it. Your awareness is the beginning of transformation. Once your eyes are open, the darkness loses its disguise. It can no longer hide behind coincidence or fatigue. You begin to see it for what it is, weak, dependent, fearful of the light, and the more you look upon it without fear, the more it crumbles. Awakening removes its illusion of power. The shadows in your home may seem overwhelming, but they are nothing more than the absence of awareness. The moment light is introduced, the darkness has nowhere to stand. This is why you have been called to awaken, not to fear, not to mourn, but to remember, to rise, to act. The home that feels heavy will not remain that way once you choose to see it clearly. The same authority that once built walls of peace around it still exists within you. The moment you claim it again, the unseen world will shift in response, and the darkness that moved freely will find itself without a place to hide. Light is not passive, and it is not weak. It is alive, powerful, and relentless in its nature. When spoken, it moves through the unseen with force, piercing through layers of spiritual resistance that have gathered quietly in corners and shadows. To speak light is to summon a higher authority into motion, one that darkness cannot negotiate with or withstand. The time has come for you to realize that the words you release are not empty. They are instruments of divine power. When they are spoken in faith and conviction, they carry the very essence of creation itself. From the beginning of time, light has always responded to command. When divine authority declared, "Let there be light," the universe shifted instantly, and the void lost its grip. That same law still governs the spiritual realm now. The moment you speak light into the places that have grown cold, stagnant, or filled with unrest, the darkness begins to tremble. It cannot hold its form where light is intentionally declared. The shadows that have gathered in your home, in your atmosphere, and around your thoughts have lingered only because silence has allowed them to. Darkness feeds on passivity. It survives in unspoken spaces, in rooms where hope has been replaced by exhaustion, where peace has been forgotten under the noise of worry. The moment you open your mouth and declare that light must rise, the spiritual balance begins to shift. The unseen forces that once felt comfortable start to stir in discomfort, for they know they cannot stay where truth is spoken with authority. Your words are not just sound, they are commands. Each word you speak from a place of divine alignment carries a vibration that dismantles structures of despair, confusion, and fear. It does not matter how small your voice feels. What matters is the certainty behind it. Even a whisper of faith can travel like thunder through the unseen. Speaking light is not merely repeating phrases. It is invoking truth over falsehood, order over chaos, life over decay. The darkness that moves through your home thrives on confusion and contradiction. It whispers lies to make you believe you are powerless, that the unrest around you is normal, that the heaviness in the air is simply exhaustion. But when you speak light, you expose the deception for what it is. You remind the unseen that truth has returned to the room. Each word becomes a flame, each declaration a spark that pushes back the shadows inch by inch. And with every breath of faith you release, the walls that once absorbed negativity begin to resonate with peace again. The sound of light spoken through conviction cannot be silenced once it begins. It echoes through time and space, reshaping the spiritual structure of your environment. The act of declaring light is not something you do only once. It is something you must do until the air itself feels clean again. Go through every space that feels unsettled. Speak life into it. Say aloud that only the presence of the divine may dwell there, that peace must reign, that anything not aligned with truth must depart. Your voice is the boundary between what may stay and what must leave. Every declaration draws a line that darkness cannot cross. This is not superstition or ritual. It is the eternal law of light. Darkness has always retreated before authority that stands in truth. The unseen does not respond to fear, but it does respond to confidence. It recognizes when the one speaking knows who they are. That is why the power of light must first begin inside you. Before you can command your home to be free, you must first let light fill the spaces within your heart that doubt, that question, that waver. Once light takes hold there, every word you speak will carry its power. You may not see immediate results in the physical, but do not be deceived by what your eyes cannot yet see. The moment you speak light, movement begins. The atmosphere shifts, invisible chains begin to break, the silence that once felt heavy starts to lift, and peace begins to seep into the room like morning sunlight through a window. The darkness will resist at first. It may attempt to linger to test your resolve, but its strength is an illusion. It survives only on attention, and when you refuse to fear it, it withers. Continue speaking light until you sense the change, until peace becomes tangible, until every corner feels lighter. You will know when the battle has turned because the air will feel different, the tension will fade, and something within you will release a breath that has been held for too long. Light must also be spoken over your thoughts, because the mind is often the first battleground. When you entertain fear, worry, or resentment, you unknowingly invite shadowed energy to grow stronger. Words of light realign your mind with truth. Say aloud that your mind belongs to peace, that your thoughts are guarded by clarity, that no dark whisper has permission to dwell there. The unseen world listens closely to what you speak, and when it hears you reclaiming your spiritual authority, it understands that you are no longer available for manipulation. This is why silence can sometimes be dangerous. Unspoken fear becomes a resting place for darkness. But spoken faith becomes a weapon that clears it away. You are not powerless. You are not outnumbered. The moment you begin to speak light, heaven itself moves to reinforce your words. The act of declaring light is both protection and creation. It protects what is sacred and rebuilds what was damaged. Every time you speak peace, you are repairing the spiritual structure of your home. Every time you declare truth, you are sealing cracks that negativity once used to enter. Every word of light becomes a brick of protection around your dwelling. It strengthens your atmosphere until darkness finds no opening, and as your home begins to align with peace, your own spirit strengthens in response. The more you speak light, the more it becomes your natural language, and the less room there is for despair to speak through you. What once felt haunted by anxiety becomes a sanctuary of calm. What once carried tension becomes a place of rest. The home you live in is not just walls and floors. It is an extension of your spiritual state. When you fill it with light through word and intention, you transform it from a target into a fortress. Even your smallest declarations matter. Whisper light before you sleep. Speak it over your doorways, your windows, your rooms. Every declaration becomes a barrier, every word a shield. The unseen listens, but so does the atmosphere itself. Energy responds to command. You are resetting the tone of your environment every time you speak peace into it. Continue doing it daily, especially when you feel tired or overwhelmed. The more consistent you are, the more grounded your space becomes in light. This consistency builds spiritual momentum that darkness cannot resist, and soon what once felt like warfare becomes maintenance, an act of keeping the light steady and strong. You have been given the authority to speak light, not because you are perfect, but because you are chosen to be aware. Awareness carries responsibility. You cannot unknow what you now understand, that your words are instruments of transformation. Use them with purpose. Every time you speak from faith rather than fear, you strengthen your alignment with the divine. Every time you choose to declare peace rather than complain, you push back what was trying to overtake you. Light responds instantly to those who speak it with conviction. You do not need elaborate words. Simplicity spoken in truth carries more weight than any ritual ever could. Say it clearly, say it with faith. Say it again until the darkness recognizes it cannot stay. The moment you begin to speak light with authority, you awaken a power that cannot be undone. The unseen shifts, the balance changes, and your home becomes covered in divine protection. Shadows that once moved freely now find no place to rest. The energy of peace takes root and begins to grow stronger each day. You will notice it in small things, the warmth of the air, the calm of your thoughts, the ease in your sleep. These are the signs that light has taken command, and as it fills your home, it will begin to flow through you as well. The more light you speak, the more it becomes part of your very presence, until everywhere you go, darkness cannot follow because it recognizes the voice that once drove it out your home, and your heart are mirrors of one another, bound together in ways you may not have realized. What settles in one eventually finds its reflection in the other. When the energy of your home feels heavy, when silence carries unease, when shadows seem to linger longer than they should, it is often because something within has been neglected, some part of the heart has gone unguarded. The heart is the gateway through which peace enters, and when that peace is interrupted, the home feels it. You have been called now to reclaim both, to restore what has been weakened, to seal what has been opened, to reclaim the sacred ground that darkness has tried to occupy. The act of reclaiming is not only about casting out what is wrong. It is about inviting back what is right. Peace, purity, and light have been waiting for permission to return, and that permission begins with your voice, your awareness, your willingness to act. Reclaiming your home means understanding that every space carries energy, every wall remembers sound, every corner holds the residue of what has been spoken and done within it. Homes absorb the atmosphere of the people who dwell there. Words of anger, fear, or despair can cling to the air like dust, while gratitude and prayer cleanse it like rain. To restore your home, you must treat it as living, something that breathes with you. Walk through it slowly, feel the air, listen for what seems off, and begin to speak peace over it. Do not rush the process. The act of cleansing a home is not mechanical, it is spiritual. It is a conversation between you and the unseen, between your faith and the energy that surrounds you. The more sincerity you bring, the more the light responds. The home begins to listen to its guardian again, and darkness begins to lose its foothold. You must declare that your home is no longer a dwelling place for fear. Speak aloud that no shadow has a right to occupy any space within its walls. Go from room to room, not with anxiety but with purpose, knowing that your voice carries authority. Open windows and let fresh air in. It symbolizes the opening of your atmosphere to renewal. Let the light enter physically and spiritually. Walk through your space and name what it is meant to hold. Rest in the bedroom, nourishment in the kitchen, joy in the living room, clarity in the places where you pray or reflect. When you name purpose, confusion leaves. Darkness thrives in undefined spaces, but light brings definition. When each room carries a clear intention, no energy contrary to that purpose can remain. It is the same within you. When you define who you are in truth, the lies that once clung to you lose their grip as you cleanse your home. You must also reclaim your heart, for they are inseparable. The darkness that moves through your house found its way in through the fractures of the soul, resentment left unresolved, pain left unhealed, forgiveness left unspoken. Each wound is a doorway, and every unhealed space is a whisper that calls the shadow to rest. You must now close those doors by tending to them. Forgive what has been haunting you, not because it deserves forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. Release the weight that has anchored your spirit to fear. The moment you let go, the energy shifts, your heart begins to breathe again, and your home follows. What lives in the heart spills into the walls around you. This is a spiritual law. You cannot have peace in your dwelling while turmoil remains inside, and you cannot hold peace in your heart if your surroundings echo unrest. Both must be aligned under the same light. Reclaiming your heart means returning to trust. Fear and faith cannot coexist. One must yield to the other. The darkness that has tried to move through your home has been sustained not by strength, but by the energy of fear. Fear feeds what faith starves. To reclaim your peace, you must stop feeding the shadow with worry and doubt. Begin to speak words of faith, even when you do not feel strong. Words are seeds. When spoken in belief, they take root and grow, shaping your atmosphere from within. Replace every thought of despair with one of truth. When the mind is filled with faith, the heart begins to glow again, and that glow becomes a shield that darkness cannot penetrate. You are rebuilding your inner sanctuary, one word at a time, one choice at a time. The divine light within you does not flicker unless you neglect it, and now you are being called to tend to it until it burns steady again. To reclaim your home and heart fully, you must remove what does not serve the light. Objects, habits, or even lingering energies that carry heaviness must be released. You may feel an instinct to remove certain things. Listen to it. When an item feels wrong, when it carries a weight you cannot explain, it is because your spirit recognizes its vibration. Do not ignore that discernment. Let go of what no longer aligns with peace. Create space for light to dwell freely. The physical act of cleaning and clearing mirrors the spiritual act of purification. The more you remove what carries old energy, the more your atmosphere becomes a dwelling place for new blessings. It is not about superstition, it is about resonance. Light cannot fill a space that is already crowded with what belongs to darkness. As the process unfolds, you may sense resistance. The shadow does not surrender easily. It will attempt to distract you, to make you weary, to convince you that your efforts are meaningless. This is where your persistence matters most. Continue to declare peace. Continue to fill your home with sound that uplifts and words that heal. Sing if you feel led to. Pray aloud. Speak light daily. Every act of faith sends ripples through the unseen, weakening the hold of what once felt powerful. You will notice moments where the air feels suddenly lighter, where warmth returns, where your spirit relaxes without explanation. Those are signs that victory has already begun. Your home will begin to feel alive again, not as a building of walls and rooms, but as a sanctuary that breathes in rhythm with you in reclaiming your home. You are not only cleansing space, you are establishing covenant. You are declaring that your home belongs to light, that your heart belongs to truth, that no darkness can coexist with peace under your watch. This declaration has power because it is made from awareness. You are no longer a passive dweller. You are a guardian. This awareness alone shifts everything. Darkness relies on ignorance and apathy, but once light enters the mind, authority returns. The spiritual world responds to conviction. When you speak with clarity, the unseen recognizes it. You are no longer asking for peace. You are enforcing it. You are not begging the light to come. You are commanding it to rise because you have remembered who you are, one entrusted to carry divine authority in the space where you live. Once your home and heart begin to align, you will sense harmony between the two. The rooms will feel like extensions of your soul. The energy will feel still and strong, not heavy but peaceful. Visitors will notice without knowing why. Even the air will feel clean. You will find that your rest deepens, your thoughts clear faster, your emotions balance more easily. This is what happens when the unseen is restored to order. Light flows freely where it is welcomed. It protects, it heals, it expands. The home that once felt infiltrated will become a beacon. Darkness may still pass by, but it will not stay. It will recognize the authority that dwells there and move on. Reclaiming your home and heart is not a single act. It is a continual state of awareness. You will need to maintain it with vigilance, to speak peace regularly, to remain aligned with faith. But once you have established it, maintaining becomes effortless. Light, once rooted, defends itself. It grows stronger through your consistency. What was once a place of disturbance becomes a sanctuary of stability. The divine presence that filled your space will not depart as long as you remain conscious of it. You are the keeper of that covenant. You are the guardian of that flame. And every day that you choose peace, every moment that you speak light, you reinforce the boundary that keeps darkness from ever reclaiming what you have restored. Time is no longer moving slowly. It is quickened in the spirit. The unseen realm is in motion, and you are standing at the threshold of a moment that carries great weight. The warning you have been given is not one of fear, but of urgency. You have only moments left before what has been gathering strength begins to take deeper root. The shadows that have crept quietly through your home, through your atmosphere, through the corners of your heart, are nearing the point where they will no longer be easy to remove. They have waited for you to delay, to dismiss the inner stirring that keeps urging you to act. Every hesitation has strengthened their presence, every ignored sign has granted them time, yet even now mercy is still extended. You are being given a final window to move, to speak, to reclaim. What you do in this moment will determine whether the darkness withdraws or settles. The signs have not been subtle. You have felt the weight in the air, the tension that comes without reason, the unrest that lingers even in moments of silence. Those are not coincidences, they are signals. They are the spiritual equivalent of alarms, warning you that something unseen is attempting to establish its place. The divine has been trying to reach you through these impressions, through dreams, through whispers in the quiet hours of night, through words that echo in your spirit when the world around you is still. Each sign has been an invitation to respond, but the noise of daily life, the distractions that fill your mind, have kept you from hearing clearly. You keep waiting for something undeniable, something dramatic, yet the truth is that subtlety is mercy. The divine always begins softly before it is forced to act loudly. These small stirrings were meant to save you from the louder shaking that comes when warnings are ignored. The urgency of this moment is not because you are doomed, but because you are loved. You have been chosen to be awakened, to be reminded, to be stirred while there is still time. The darkness that has been moving through your space has not yet reached its full strength, but it is close. The longer it lingers, the deeper it roots itself into the environment, weaving through emotion, habit, and thought. It begins quietly, influencing moods, magnifying frustrations, planting fatigue, and dulling awareness. Its goal is to make you comfortable with its presence, to convince you that nothing is wrong. That illusion is its strongest weapon. Once you stop noticing the heaviness, it has already succeeded in becoming part of your atmosphere. That is why you must act now, not later, before that comfort sets in. You still have the authority to remove it, but the window grows smaller with each moment of indecision. You must understand that in the unseen world, time behaves differently. Moments of delay have weight. Every choice to remain silent when you should speak, every day you ignore the urge to pray or to cleanse, strengthens what resists you. Yet the opposite is also true. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, breaks something powerful in the unseen. When you decide to rise, to declare peace, to speak light, the darkness begins to lose its grip, but the action must be deliberate. You cannot wait until you feel ready. Readiness comes through obedience, not before it. The moment you choose to act, strength begins to flow. That strength will not come beforehand because it is unlocked through faith, not comfort. Faith is not a feeling. It is a decision made before understanding catches up. You have been waiting to feel confident before moving, but heaven is waiting for you to move before confidence appears. There is a line that must be drawn, and you are the one chosen to draw it. The divine has entrusted you with the authority to determine what remains and what must go. The unseen will always test your boundaries, pushing as far as silence allows. Every spiritual force understands hierarchy. When you stand in truth and command light, darkness must obey. It cannot argue with authority that comes from divine alignment. But that authority must be used while the window is open. The longer you wait, the more ground is lost. You must reclaim the atmosphere through word, through action, through the declaration that your home is sacred, that your heart is off limits to anything that does not belong to light. You must speak it aloud, for the spoken word carries power that thought alone does not. Sound travels through space and breaks patterns that silence preserves. The unseen recognizes sound. It responds to vibration, to resonance, to the frequency of conviction that flows through spoken faith as you act. You may feel resistance. The shadows will not retreat quietly. There will be distractions, sudden tiredness, interruptions that pull you away from what you intended to do. Do not be surprised when this happens. It is confirmation that your actions matter. The resistance is proof of progress. Press through it, even if your voice trembles, even if your mind doubts, speak anyway. Every declaration weakens what has tried to stay hidden. You will not see it in